We live in a fast-paced and hectic world where it's easy to feel overwhelmed, stressed, and out of control. How do you manage all the competing pressures without losing sense of yourself? How do you stay focused enough to not only plot a path, but follow it? Welcome to Master Your Life, a show that offers inspiration, insight, and intelligence, as well as success stories from many walks of life that can show you how you can control your own destiny. Our knowledgeable and entertaining host and her guests give practical advice that you can use every day in the quest to master your life. Now, here's your host, Leaha Mattinson.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's show. I'm host Leaha Mattinson, and thank you, everyone, for joining us from wherever it is that you are on this beautiful planet today. I'm joined for this week's Master Your Life episode with the wonderful Dr. David Hardy. Dr. Dave, how are you today?
Hello, I'm doing great. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Been a good week.
It's always a good week, isn't it?
Absolutely, and no better way than to chat about it on Friday and just continue on with those good vibes and feelings.
Absolutely. So for those of you who maybe have missed past episodes with Dr. David Hardy, he is a chiropractor and a functional neurologist out of the Red Deer Collegiate Sports Center in Red Deer, Alberta, Canada. So he's my fellow Canadian brother living in the same province. We're in lovely Alberta. We're so blessed to be here. And Dave and I have done probably now at least 10 episodes on all kinds of things that are going to help you with living a healthier life and considering your neurological health. So for those of you who haven't checked out those episodes, please come to the masteryourlife.ca website and send us some love there. Let us know what you think about the episodes. And if you have any questions, please send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. So without further ado, Dr. Dave, what are we going to talk a little bit about today?
I was thinking with everything going on right now, a good conversation would wrap around leadership, kind of steps to improve it, and then hope as well around that. So diving deep, and we'll stay around the guardrail on being too political, I would imagine, but
I like to be around the guardrail.
I think in these times, people need to know that there are a lot of people that are taking on leadership roles that are really, really out there doing good work. And we'll also look at basically how leadership principles also go into mindset and also into taking care of their own body. The top leaders now really realize that they need to take care of themselves in order to help other people and be able to stay tough in these tough situations that are occurring.
Yeah, mental toughness is key, and you can't do that without a good brain.
No, you can't. That's for sure.
That's for sure. So that's where the functional neurology comes in, and why I love having our discussions, because I think a lot of people really believe that they can lead their life well without having a good functioning brain. But we see so many train wrecks. I think leadership and hope is an important topic because we look externally for leaders, and we talk about this all the time, for 7 years now on this show. I know I've been harping on it, but we have to become our own best advocates and the leaders within our own lives. And that starts with our health.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
With our own health. And so Dr. Dave and I talked a few episodes ago about him doing a ketogenic diet and some fasting that he was exploring, and just the good results that he got physically in his body from doing that. And because you were a fairly high level athlete too in rugby, right, Dr. Dave?
I'd like to pretend I am, but I did play with and against professional players. I would say there was definitely something holding me back from reaching that next caliber, and having that experience of being close to those people that are really elite and performing at that next level, and then just seeing how close and yet how far apart you can really be in those situations, really is just inspirational and take it farther into the next careers and stages in my life. And I think that's one of the power of sports too, is that leadership aspect around it. And it really does help mold people. And then Like if you met me back in my 20s, there's probably no way you'd ever see me being interviewed on a podcast or doing public speaking, because everybody knows public speaking is one of those horrible fears most people have. But yeah, you continue to work on that self-improvement, and things just become easier and easier. And to that hope or motivation aspect, you had told me a great story about one of your clients that reached out to you, and I think you need to be able to share that with other people to kind of give them that hope and see why leadership positions are actually rewarding instead of being fearful of them.
Right, and being burdensome. Thank you for offering me the opportunity to share the story. I had a client that booked a call. Well, not a client, actually, just somebody that's been listening to the podcast for a number of years. And she grew up in a family with Huntington's disease. Her mother died very young of the Huntington's disease. And she said, my mom gave up. Wow. And that she was so sick that she just gave up. And this, so she had all of the symptoms that come with Huntington's. She had the movement disorder, she had psychiatric problems, she had executive functioning problems. So she had full-blown depression, and really had checked out from her life, checked out from being a mother. So this young woman would have been in her teens when her mom was really going through the process of dealing with the major onset of symptoms. So she said, I really didn't have a mom.
No, she wouldn't. No.
Yeah. Wow. And I hadn't thought about just how lucky I had been to actually have my mom and dad all the way along. Right. Just recently losing my father has given me a lot more perspective on what it's like to go through that, just to be going through the grieving process. So here she is, this young lady with no mother, trying to make life decisions without her mom there. And mothers who are good mothers help to make all kinds of decisions, who you date, how you protect yourself, how you nurture other people, how you consider other people, how much safety and security you feel in the world. And it does, I think, affect your neurology. I'll ask you your opinion on that. But just to kind of, the Reader's Digest of the story was that she had caught what I've been doing and talking about several years ago and thought, hang on a minute, this woman's experience is different, and what she's doing is different. Right. In relation, thinking about me. And that when she spoke with me, she said, you gave me so much hope, because what I thought was that I was going to end up like my mom. And if that was the case, then I would be checking out in the next few years. But really, she's 37 and I'm 54, turning 54. So quite a big age gap. And she just said, watching you and watching your father gave me this just completely different idea of what could be possible in my life.
Wow.
Yeah, I just was like, so she's crying. She goes, my mom's behind me. She's like saying thanks and, sending you hugs and kisses because she's just so grateful that you're around or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to start crying, because I don't really think about it.
I've shed a tear over that as well. That is absolutely powerful, though.
Yeah.
That honor right there in that spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had not thought about it. Just to hear it from her, I was like, so all of this stuff of staying healthy, really, even if it impacts one person, besides myself, so from a leadership perspective, it's about learning our own self-leading, the leadership of the self, so that you can be well and healthy and, balanced in all areas. And then you hope to be able to impact other people in some other fashion. But I hadn't thought about somebody who'd lost their mother and what that would be like. It could be completely debilitating. So she's telling me all this stuff. She's dancing around. Like everyone who watches this, if you want to watch the video versus listening to the podcast, you can see that I have a stand-up desk. So we're doing the interview stand up, and she's like, and this is all the things that I've learned from watching you, is that you stand up and you move around and you dance around and you're whatever. And she goes, I'm a yoga instructor and I take care of my nutrition. And, all of just all of her strategies to be healthy in her life.
Right.
She goes, but lots of it's because of watching you. I'm like, that's really an honor. I was like, that's an honor for somebody to actually look at you, Leaha Mattinson, like, who are you to influence anybody, but who are you not? So that was the other thing is, okay, then have I been schleppy? Okay, do I have another 25 years in me of this? Like, really, so when you're going these leadership positions, not that they have to be like a burdensome thing, but it's more like, can you be enlivened by it, Leaha, or are you going to be, I don't know. I was blown away, I guess, quite frankly. It's like blown away going that I could have that much positive impact just by taking care of my health and standing up here and talking about it.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of the difference, isn't it? That most people, they when they go through this process, they might work on themselves a little bit, but then to actually explain and to share that with other people, it seems to be a sticking factor for this. And there's I think in the journey I've been on is that the hope is the motivation part. It just gets you going. Yeah. And then it requires to develop that momentum. So I think the biggest key, you're able to give people this hope, but not just that, you're able to start giving them little steps to start taking that momentum, so that if there is another kind of horrible event, or even small little stressors that start to pile up, that people don't lose that hope and fall backwards. And I think too, that's the power of the constant conversations that we have around what are uncomfortable topics in a lot of cases, and turning it into this positive. How do we actually make the most out of this journey we're on? Because none of us are going to make it out alive.
Right. That's right. We're not.
There's so much during this that enriches our lives, and I'd like to, definitely thank you for sharing that with other people. And I'm sure there's many more out there that you've impacted that haven't connected with you yet. So,
right. Yes. Thanks.
That's
thanks.
inspiring to me as well.
Yes, thank you so much. And it's just occurring to me because she's shy, and so she was saying she's introverted and didn't want to share stuff. And also because in the Huntington's community, lots of people don't want to come out because they don't want to be identified, just because there's so many symptoms that are really not really culturally acceptable, right? So one of the other things that she had said, and I could just see her little shoulders like relieving as she's talking about things, right? So it's just like you can like that whole release of stress. And so we had talked about going for the genetic testing, and when she got her results, that there was no, the doctor offered her some sort of like drugs. So it was just like, do you have coping strategies? No. Okay, well, here, maybe take some medication, which she refused. But, she goes, I couldn't talk to anybody else about that, but you.
Right. Yeah.
She goes, because you actually get what it's like to get this gene positive thing. And so she's like pointing up to the sky, and she's going, I'm talking to my mom, but my mom actually isn't here. So now she goes, like, I'm talking to you. I can't believe I'm talking to you about this because you actually completely get it. I was like, holy, it was just really, very much something. So then we talked about her having children or getting married, like all these really important things. And just that she was so uncertain about her life and living it. And so one of the things too that came out during that interview is that a lot of people spend tons of time meditating, so much time meditating that they're not engaged in their actual 3D life. So it's like you're not manifesting the joy here on planet Earth, you're meditating. So meditating has this like nice aspect of it, but could also be the slippery slope of checking out just as much as anything else, just as much as too much time at the gym or like whatever, all the things.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, there's Goldilocks and then the three little bears. You have too much, you have too little, or just the right amount, and that goes for absolutely everything. And yeah, most people would not expect to hear that some people are meditating too much. But yeah, if you're checked out and not experiencing also the rushes and the higher higher energy aspects, then yeah, you're not taking in everything. And yeah, I think this is kind of one of those debates too with genetics, is that Huntington's disease really kind of represents that aspect where genetics are going to be more linked to some pathology that may or may not occur, but of course it's more likely. And then all the way down to just, okay, well, this is my behavior, it's my genetics type thing. So on one aspect of it, sometimes not knowing might be a good idea. And
Right.
And then on the other aspect, people really like to blame their genetics for so many different things. And the more and more we're finding out about genetics is just how dynamic it is. And yeah, just because you have a recipe book doesn't mean you're going to bake cookies all day long.
That's right. You're not.
There are recipes in that book that are going to fill the void. And you don't have to end up with oatmeal raisin all the time.
Right, because that gets boring also.
Right.
Yes. Let's talk a little bit about the genetic aspect of disease, because I've had Dr. David Katz on the podcast, at least 4 interviews, and it might be 6. So Dr. Dave is the only one who would not publicly get into a conversation with me about Huntington's disease, because I kept saying to him, like, come on, Dave, another Dave that I love, another Dr. Dave that I love, and I really respect him, right? So it was just, come on, Dave, like, let's have a conversation about Huntington's, because I think it can be cured through lifestyle as medicine. And he is like the lifestyle as medicine guru, was probably being considered for the Surgeon General job in the US not that many years ago. So he's very well respected in the US. And he said to me, Leah, and it was just like the dad voice, Leah. I could feel his arm come around me. Leah, there are some things that actually can't be cured through lifestyle. And I'm sorry to tell you, yours is one of them. And I just was like, yeah. And yes. And so that was a getting at a meditation moment for me, because there was the part of me that really believes in spiritual healing and the aspect of that. And then there's also the practical, logical, earthbound Leah that goes, okay, so if that's the truth, then, and there's not very many diseases that are like that. So I think that's why it's so important to differentiate between Huntington's disease and some of the actual genetic diseases versus all these other things that are not, that are very much curable as lifestyle as medicine. And also because when I say that I have Huntington's, people go, oh, that's a genetic disease. That's just like having type 2 diabetes. And then I have to go, no, actually, it's nothing like that at all. Yeah. And so it's funny because, you want to be, you want to know that you're curable, but you also don't want to be lumped in with the people who really are.
Yes. Yeah. And at the same time, though, it's, you know which car you're going to end up at the end of the road. Right. The main question, especially with the lifestyle, is, can we extend the length of the road?
That's right.
And those studies and everything else, right now they have to be self-studies, and you may not know, but along that road, it can be a lot more enjoyable if you're in better health. And hopefully that sets people up for extending that road.
Right.
The end result might still be the same, but once again, is it possible to live a more fulfilled life and also extend that for a longer period of time. And I think that's the quest that everyone in this realm is on to figure out. And while there's there's really no negative side effects to living a positive, healthier life.
Right? That's right.
Like,
It's like age of onset and severity of symptoms. Those are important things. Like those are notes people could take down. Age of onset of anything and severity of symptoms of anything. Those, it's just important to pay attention to that stuff. So that is the road. Like, are you in the ditch or are you staying on the road for as long as you can? And how much impact are you having on other people? So this leadership and hope thing, back to the main theme, it is like, what is the leadership that you have in your own life, and what's the hope that you inspire within yourself every day? And then surprise, surprise, there might be some other people that have a positive benefit from that, which would be incredible. That's an absolute bonus. Yes, because that can be life-changing for people who are looking and going, what can I look at of a great example of somebody who I can get some information from, or learn some tools and skills from, or get some healing modalities from, that can actually help me to change my experience of day-to-day life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So self-query.
And the biggest thing with leadership is really leadership. An aspect of it is that you're able to basically figure things out in tough situations.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in a leadership position and helping other people, then you're basically providing them that insight into how to deal and cope and hopefully exceed and excel through that figuring out process. And it's not to say that everyone has the answer, and we're finding out, of course, that doesn't exist in a lot of cases. But the key is to, once again, be able to have better skills at trying to figure things out and helping other people figure things out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to constantly be changing and adapting as well. And that's why, a leadership position just doesn't end.
Right. It's exhausting. You go, what? I was having a conversation with one of my family members who has lots of little ones, and they were saying, oh, they needed a day off because they were so exhausted from taking care of kids, and just like, because they're all different personalities and temperaments and ages, and it's lots to manage. So I said, well, something about the 7th day was supposed to be a day off. And they said, well, do you think we can make it like day 5? Because I'm done by about day 5. That's when I need my day off. So because leadership is like, we're always self-leading, but often we're in charge of other people, even like a business or families, young children, grandchildren. So we're never taking that hat off. What's a management cycle that you've been taught, Dave, that's helped you out? Is there a cycle that you can just go boop, boop, boop through?
Nothing's linear.
Nothing's linear.
I really wish it was just as simple as a cycle, but it is a lot of taking care of yourself so that you're actually able to be in that state where you can kind of remove yourself from the situation to look at the situation and then make better decisions, versus being in that state where you're run down, stressed out, and reacting to things, and not being able to kind of remove yourself from the tough conversations or emotions that are surrounding things. And it's not to say you don't feel it, but you're able to, once again, process things better from kind of a higher perspective versus being right in the the mess and the storm. Yeah. So it does require a lot of once again self-care to be able to do that. And when you're able to, like, a lot of people are able to handle their usual stressed out routines, but throw something different at it and it's just going to explode and go into chaos type thing. So I would say, even though you've got this like the parenting example, such a great one, is that eventually you can kind of do it in your sleep almost, and but really is that the best and fullest way to enjoy things and to also be present? And the answer, of course, is going to be no. Like, yeah, you can be a kick-ass parent, but if your health starts to decline and you're eating poorly, your energy starts to go, you still might be a kick-ass parent, but how good is that experience for you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the key to that enrichment side as well, is that it all starts with health and really that self-improvement that way. And the second you're able to put the oxygen mask on yourself before others is when you're going to actually move forward. And that's such a tough one, because you're going to be stressed out about all the responsibility you have, but the biggest responsibility is going to be, once again, your own health, and then you're able to respond better to everything else going on. And that's just key. And I know we keep hammering away on it, but it's again one of those things that all of us need constant reminders of the things that are going to help us. So if there is kind of a cycle, or anything linear, it's to have these frequent reminders and to key into the people that or voices or media that's going to build that voice that you want in your head.
Yeah, absolutely. So people who listen to this podcast, I'm 100% sure, but just because the title of it, Master Your Life or Recovery Road, whichever episode you're listening to, are people who want to bridge that gap between, what it is they want and where it is they actually are. So they're always looking for that stress management tool, stress management insight, lessening the gap so that they feel less stressed. So their reality is more like what they want, or that they dial back their quote unquote visions to be more in alignment with what their actual experience of life is. So I'm so incredibly grateful for everyone who listens into this podcast, because it takes a lot of intelligence to tune in here, to be tuned in. It really does, So again, we're almost at 300,000 listeners or downloads now. So that's growing. And I want people to give themselves a pat on the back, because this is hard work. It's sane and sober. I think that there was a lot of decades where it was just woohoo, like everything's a woohoo, and people are meditating, checking out. I'm not saying meditating is bad, just lots of checking out, so you don't actually have to deal with anything in reality when you're checked out all the time, whatever it is that you're doing. So here we are in the reality of this particular year and going, okay, well, what is it that could lead me to have a better experience of life? And man, is there a lot of stuff that is really not that awesome happening around me. Do I turn my back and just keep meditating about it? Or do I actually go, what can I influence here? What can I actually understand better with a pickled brain of any kind? So just checking out, or pickled on anything, whether you watch too much TV or Netflix, or you're zoning out on your, whatever it is people do, virtual reality, like not actually being in reality, I think is the craziest thing in the world. Look at where we live. We live in the most beautiful place. We live in a gorgeous place. Even if you're living at -41 with snow, we live in a gorgeous place. And yet people are choosing to put virtual reality machines on their head and check out for hours and hours and hours at a time. So it's just like getting more and more entangled in our real experience of this real life. And so I have an absolute passion for neurology. And back to this little gal's story. She's not checking out virtual reality because she said, just like me, I care about my brain. Like, I don't want to be checked out. The reality of living a happy, joyful life and doing everything that I can to make sure that I don't turn out like my mama is really important. But maybe that's the gift of actually having Huntington's in your family, as you go, well, I don't want that to happen to me. So I think whatever that is, I think I should, I could steer my boat in another direction. But it's this.
That's huge. And like, I remember so many friends, because smoking obviously is less prevalent now, but would look at their parents who are completely unhealthy and coughing up a lung and going, yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Like there can be that aspect to all these negative things that have happened previous to us that force us to go a better direction. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the silver lining, I guess, in that. And I also think it's really amazing right now that with everything going on, we're able to talk about how to stay calm in difficult situations, and instead of the hysteria and our fear or whatever else is going on. And that really is right there, kind of, once again, that aspect of leadership that a lot of people are starting to show is that, yeah, we can go on and do things and do it responsibly and be helping people out of a horrible situation at the same time. And it doesn't need to be this huge, basically backlash in a destructive form. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of one of the golden linings, not silver, gold, is that, mm-hmm. that so far that's what's taken place, and hopefully it continues in that direction versus the destructive aspects that really change things. But at the same time, you're kind of like, yeah, we destroyed a lot of things at the same time that were good. So,
yes. And the hero's journey, which is really what you're talking about here, is the hero's journey is really finding the courage within yourself first to go, okay, well, what do I do here to inspire myself, meaning like breathing inspiration. And, how do you keep yourself motivated each day to stay grounded and level and sane, and doing, putting one foot in front of the other, but not closing your eyes to what's going on in your own body, first of all, start there, and then externally. So one of the tools we've talked about on previous episodes, like cleaning up your brain and gut biome, being Quadrimune or any of the products that we carry on the masteryourlife.ca website, because cleaning up is important. So that lifestyle, we've talked about ketogenic eating, and we've talked about fasting, so there's lots of strategies to clean that up.
Absolutely. And let's just go with yourself there. So yes. What is it? It's 20 to 11. So far today, what was one thing that frustrated you? And then also one thing that you did that was once again in the realm of everything we've been talking about in self-improvement or self-actualization.
Sure. One thing that frustrated me was that I am getting always detailed data about what's going on with injury from the Jabberwocky. And right. So I look at that and go, when can I share information? How should I share information? How can I help people to be educated themselves, educate themselves? Because again, that's been the gift of the Huntington's is, I was given the diagnosis and no solution. So I had the no solution. So I just go back to, okay, I've got the no solution. So how do I actually do the research for myself? Be smart, Leaha Mattinson, because you are, and you can figure things out, or you can, ask other people for more information. So rally your troops. So when I get this information, which is daily, I go, how's it affecting little ones? How's it if these are real issues? This is not like, I broke my nail. Oh, my fingernails broke. That's a frustration for some people. Oh, I'm having a bad hair day. That's a frustration for some people. No, the frustration for me is when I see health information coming out that is actually harmful to people. And I go, and that's been since day one of this podcast too, just the whole pharmacy thing, so not to rant on that, but it's the constant being given information and going, okay, now what do I do with that so that I can share it in a way that is helpful to people, so that they don't stop listening, but so that they also go, maybe I should pay attention here and do something about this. So how I handled that was I got more intel. What's true? What's fiction? Can I see both sides? Then I went, what do I share? What tools do I have to help people heal? Because this is another thing is I think people go, be afraid, be afraid, be afraid. And then they don't actually give people the tools to heal, which is exactly what happened for me. I got my genetic status and I got, good luck, take some creatine. We don't really know how much and we don't know if it works, but like what? So it still makes me laugh when I think that, right? Because there's tools. There's like clean up your health, clean up your lifestyle, do biofeedback. There's like really simple, do qigong, so when I do my podcasts, I always point to the same tools for people, but I don't say, oh, just sit there and wait with like, sorry, here's the bad news. And see you next week, which I think a lot of like, that's what media is. Here's the bad news and see you next week. But I'm not, it's like, I want people to have tools. So I want them to go, all right, what's the management tools? They're the same ones I use. That's what I actually share with people. And then I evaluate how that went. I wait for feedback. I see what people think about it. I see how I'm feeling that day. So I'll do my genius biofeedback.
Yes.
I do that. I do qigong every morning. So whether that's for 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 7 minutes or a full hour, I just decide as I'm rolling into my morning. And then I assess how I'm feeling, see what's going on, and if there's anything else I can do with it. That's the management cycle for me. How about for you? Like, did you have a frustration? No.
Yeah, myself. Yeah, the past episodes, like you mentioned, I went into basically how I felt my health was deteriorating a bit, and I think if I wasn't in that healthy spot right now, where I feel I'm improving my health daily, is that I probably wouldn't have the insight I have around leadership. And one of those is, am I actually being listened to? Mm-hmm. And of course, yeah, we all have those little voices that second guess ourselves. But just being on kind of a high end conference call with a lot of really peak performers out there, and of course it's on Zoom, so it's not like you go through square by square. You quite often just blurt out and become part of the conversation. So it was like one of these situations. It's like, okay, well, I'm talking, but it feels like I'm talking over somebody to get a point across, and truly, am I actually getting a point across or being listened to? And of course, then that voice kind of just perseverated and built from there. And then you go into past experiences you've had where you felt in a previous time that you weren't listened to, and you knew it. And then that starts to build, and you go down that horrible downward spiral instead. And then I was able to pop out of it, and I'm like, well, all these memories of previous situations probably are affecting my perception of this call that I was having, and just making that feeling worse when it doesn't exist. And also memories, every time you think about them, you can change them. And memories are inaccurate.
There's a key.
If you
memories are inaccurate.
If you know that, you can go back, and for your own self purpose, you can start to change that narrative. So if you actually start to remember of that event where, you weren't listened to or you felt disrespected, you can go back and change it. Like, all you have to do is start saying, well, if it went this way, what would have been the difference with that conversation? Yeah. Oh, okay. So instead of being more timid with voice and action and everything else, no, I was more assertive. And then I noticed people looking at me and eyes locked on and hanging on my words, versus, oh no, I was in this situation and it was noisy. Everyone else was talking over me, and I went into this soft place. Well, no, you can go back into those memories and actually actually change them to change how you're feeling at this present moment. And there's nothing wrong with doing that.
In fact, it's important that you do.
It's really one of those strategies. You don't really hear things. Yeah, go back and change your memories. Everyone's going to be like, what? You can't do that. That's my memory. Well, no, you actually have the power to go back and change and make it look and feel like the way you wanted it to have ended up. And it's your own world anyways.
Yeah. So this is a great question, because this is a great example. So why is it that people want to have memories that are disempowering?
Yeah, because then it reinforces how we're feeling. And the brain likes to be efficient.
Yes.
And the brain can be very efficient at the state we're in. And it's extremely difficult to push it into a different state, even though we might want it. But right now it's idling at that speed, and that's where it wants to be. So then we just continue on with things that are going to reinforce that same speed or processing of that event versus, okay, well, how do we actually put it into different gear? And even though we want to.
I love that. I love that, because it's like the people who would say to me when I was executive coaching, well, I'm the kind of person who, and I go, well, how do you know? It's like, then they just stop, right? Well,
right. Yeah.
How do you know? You maybe you were the kind of person that did some of that stuff, but are you the kind of person that's going to continue to do whatever it is? That's a completely different question, because then you can start to go, what kind of person do I want to really be? What am I trying to do in my leadership of myself every day?
Yeah.
And catch yourself, write it down. What kind of things do you tell yourself about the kind of person that you are?
Yeah. There was a great talk. He's an investor. I'm slipping on his name, but he gave this great speech about how he met the Japanese Warren Buffett type, and his claim was to come up with 2,000 thoughts that were positive, things that he noticed around him that were positive. So I'm like, okay, well, I got a little timer clicker, one of those like those lineup ones that bouncers used to have. Number changes or accountants or whatever.
Yes.
So I had one of those, and I'm like, well, a few days, I'm like, I'm going to try this. And it is amazing how many times you have to click that damn thing to get 2,000.
So were you grateful for the clicker, Dr. Dave?
Because here's the thing. It feels
There's one.
The simple act of just pressing a button made me feel happy. Right. And then I could continue on. But it takes a large amount of concentration to come up with that many. And I think
there's two things you're doing there. So I want to point it out, because there's two things you're doing there. You're wiring and firing your brain together. And so like from a functional neurology perspective, when people go, well, what's the power of the hands? So I'm a Qigong practitioner, and Dr. Dave's a functional neurologist. So we kind of know about acupuncture and all that other stuff, but the tips of the fingers and the palms of the hand are very connected to the heart. So when you click things, or when you eat things, that you put the food in your hands and you're eating things, you're sending love, like you love the food, it's coming into your mouth. So a lot of people with eating disorders do a lot of things with their hands.
Or other addictions like smoking. They smoking. Have something in their fingers.
Even drinking, like all of it.
Actually, there's no other animal that has the sensitivity or the touch that we do in our fingers, and there's a whole amount of brain power that goes into that sensation just with the fingers and movements. And that's why too, on the Huntington's or Parkinson's tests, you have finger tapping as one of the tests. Speed and accuracy. So you can start to see when things start to go wrong. And yeah, the hands, the touch, yeah, all of that are just a huge part of human existence. Like, just think of what we can do with writing by itself, back when it was pen and paper, and now with and then of course with painting and everything else. Like, it's fine detailed, really amazing stuff that you would never think about until we brought it up, and now you're looking down at your hands going, wow.
Exactly. Wow. And when was the last time I wrote anything? Like, a lot of people, yes, when I do coaching, I'll say, write things down, write them down with your hand, with a pen or a pencil on a piece of paper. And they'll go, why can't I just use it in my phone? It's not the same thing at all. So it's that getting that
memorization techniques out there is just simply write it.
Simply write it.
Yeah.
Write it down. That's right. Awesome. And the other thing I want to point out as we're kind of coming to the last minute of this podcast is that our ability to self-assess is so important. So I love the example of going through the clicker thing in 2000. It's nice, these markers, right? Of going, oh, this felt good. I have 2000 or 4000 or 8. What number did you get up to? Just 2000?
Oh, to reach 2000 took like all day. So yeah, like if you did it at your work day, if you're hitting 500 to 1000, you're probably doing really good.
Right. So that's this week's challenge, everybody. See how many things you can get that you feel positive about or that you like around you in your surroundings, and take note. This is part of the healing. This is life mastery, really noticing and reveling in things, reveling in it, for sure. Well, awesome. Thank you, Dr. Dave, for joining me once again, and for your insight, intelligence, and inspiration for our audience to live a more masterful life.
It's been a pleasure.
Wonderful. For anyone who wants to check out any of our products or services or what Dr. Dave is up to, come to the masteryourlife.ca website. We'd love to see you there and interact. If you have any questions, again, just shoot us an email. Come to masteryourlife.ca. Love yourselves. Love each other. Mind your minds. That's all for us. Bye for now.
Thank you for being a part of our program today. Master Your Life is a presentation of Leaha Mattinson Enterprises, Inc. Join us next time on Master Your Life, helping you to discover the very best of you.